Hello, everyone. I'm Mackenzie Jacob, your host, and welcome back to Dressed Rehearsal, the podcast where Broadway meets fashion and we discuss personal style and the roles that shape us on stage and off. I cannot emphasize enough how excited I am about this week's guest, Matt Rodin. He is the definition of a creative in every sense of the word, who just follows joy every step of the way. In his case, Matt's personal style is defined by so many facets of his artistry, from his writing style to his marketing style to his performance style. Everything is uniquely Matt. He is currently off Broadway in Out of the Box Theatrics' second off Broadway run of Beau the musical. Matt is a heart-centered performer who is literally singing his face off in this show while fully still playing the guitar live on stage. And something very unique to Beau is that not only are the performers playing characters, but they're also playing instruments at the same time. So get you a cast that can do both. Beau is now in its second run off Broadway, starting on October 13th and opening night set for October 27th. Run, Don't Walk. It is the most beautiful story of a young boy in the South discovering his sexuality and really understanding his family history in a way that's so meaningful to him. Earlier this year, Matt also cracked my heart open in King Company's All the World's a Stage off Broadway, which is another beautiful original story that was about a teacher in the 90s who also was gay and the impact that he was able to have on his tiny corner of the world and just proves how influential teachers can be in young students' lives. He helped show a student what the world was beyond her small town and how she can tap into her own artistry as a way to free herself from her circumstances. So clearly, Matt is telling these important stories that remind us of community and the value of human connection. Previously, Matt toured the country with the national tour of Stephen Sondheim's company, as well as played Roger and Rent at Paper Mill Playhouse and explored the biggest diva of them all, Hedwig and the Angry Inch, a Milwaukee rep. For those of you who aren't familiar with Hedwig, please look up the video of Neil Patrick Harris on the Tony Awards because you will understand every inch of that show. It is loud, it is proud, it is drag, it is humanity. And Matt really dives into what that meant to discover different sides of himself through that role and step out of his comfort zone in a way that was really meaningful. Like I said, Matt has explored every inch of the creative landscape. So he writes an insightful and bold newsletter called The Fourth Wall on Substack. He had a soulful yet silly podcast, The Come Up, which was actually blueprint for me when I was creating this podcast because he dives into the journey that artists take in their careers in such a grounded way and really opens up the space to be vulnerable and honest about what it really means to stay creative in this moment in time. And I first discovered Matt with his iconic Broadway.com red carpet challenge, where he would interview legends like Bernadette Peters on Broadway red carpets and really just celebrate the Broadway community. And so I really hope you enjoy this conversation with Matt as much as I did. It felt like real soul food. So without further ado, please enjoy Matt Rodin on Dress Rehearsal Podcast. And welcome Matt Rodin to the pod. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Mackenzie? It's so great to be here.
I am fabulous. And we start every episode with, how did you get bit by the theater bug?
Oh my goodness. I think my parents, especially my mom, played the Kathy Rigby live taped version of Peter Pan that was on VHS as a child, and I watched that thing on literally on loop. I like wore the VHS out, and yeah, I was just obsessed. I memorized every word. I was walking around the living room like as Captain Hook, not knowing what any of the words actually meant, but just reciting them. And then the first show that I think I ever saw was like a high school production of Joseph. And I was obsessed. I was addicted. And I don't think at the time, especially at that young of an age, you can really understand why something connects with you in that kind of way. But I think the thing that I'm sure is true for a lot of us is that there was something bigger at play. Like I felt like I was a part of something bigger than myself for the first time. And especially because I think as a theater kid, you can kind of feel like an outsider,
Mm.
and not know why in the beginning. And when you walk into a theater and you experience it for the first time, you feel like, oh, maybe I do belong somewhere.
Hmm.
And that was the experience I had. And I just was obsessed. And I was lucky that my parents were willing to let me do theater as a kid, children's theater. I was not doing like professional community theater. I was doing children's theater.
Right.
But they were really insistent on me being like, quote unquote, well rounded. So I was playing hockey until I was in high school. I went to an all boys summer camp for 12 years. Like I wasn't just a theater kid. I mean, that was my primary identity. But yeah, my parents were really insistent that I have other hobbies and activities just to make sure that like my life experience was wider than just the theater. And I'm really grateful for that.
Well, and also the more life experience you have and like the different worlds that you live in all inform who you are in general.
Exactly.
It
Yeah.
all feeds back to each other. And if you're just so laser focused on one lane, you're gonna miss so much of like the goodness in every other experience.
Yeah. And I think I spent a lot of time, I think in like high school and college, when I first got to college, being like, why didn't I just focus on theater my whole life?
Mm.
And then as college went on and as I moved to the city, I realized like how valuable that experience outside of the theater was.
Right, because you have to live a life in order to
Yes.
explain one on stage.
Yes, that's a great way of saying it.
Thank you. And this year alone, you've been in two of my favorite shows off Broadway, Beau and All the World is Stage. And it feels like the through line between both of those shows, or just kind of like what you're drawn to, is just cracking the audience's heart open. And I'm
Mm.
curious, when you're auditioning, exploring projects, like, is emotional openness what you're most drawn to and care about in a story, or what do you look for?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think that's probably true. I
Mm.
think what you said is probably true. The thing that I'm looking for is a spark of something, right? Like the feeling I get when I hear the music. If you hear my dog squeaking in the background, I sincerely apologize, but
Speak
unfortunately, I have
away.
no control over her squeaks.
No, we're not controlling
Um,
her squeaks. She's not being
you know what
sad.
I mean? Like I'm not going to discriminate.
No.
Um, Yeah, I think when I read something or I listen to something, for me, music is a big part of it,
Mhm.
right? I mean, obviously, I would love to do a play because it would be nice not to have to sing, but I've only done musicals up to this point. And when I hear music for the first time, like when I got the script for All the World's a Stage, I was excited by it and by the story because I felt like there was something in there that I was like, oh, this is a story that feels like it needs to be told and it would be a privilege to share it. And I like this character. But I was like, I need to hear the songs. And so I got the demos and I was like, oh, this score is really good. Like I have to have some sort of, I have to feel moved by the score in some way.
A visceral
Um,
reaction.
yeah. And I think that's a way of saying the thing that you said about that sort of emotional connection piece, because ultimately I think that's what I'm saying leads to
Hmm.
is like music is a sort of channel straight to the heart, right? Like we know that frequencies do that to us. They tap into the energy of who we are. And yeah, so for music for me, especially when it comes to musicals, obviously, is I'm looking for a score that opens something up in me or makes me want to move my body in some particular way. I mean, even I think about Company and I'm like, that score, so different than All the World's a Stage and Beau. But when I listen to that score, or I mean, last night I had dinner with Ali Borski, who played my husband on the first part of that tour. And both of us were sitting there being like, can you believe that we were singing like Sondheim 8 times a week? Like there's something visceral about that music that feels different. And I don't know where that comes from for me. I mean, certainly I grew up listening to show tunes and I grew up listening to country music from my dad and disco from my mom, and rock from my dad and
Okay, range.
show tunes from my mom. Yeah, like it was really everything.
Yeah.
And so I again, like I don't discriminate against particular types of music. I really have an appreciation and an understanding, and a willingness to like really let all different types of music affect me in whatever way it manifests.
Mhm.
And I think even going to camp, going to an all boys camp and learning to play guitar, there was something about the nature of like being able to be self-sufficient in the making of music and the vibrational feeling of a guitar on your body and the way that you're utilizing your hands in order to like create sound, and that I could sing with myself playing guitar. All of that I think speaks to the thing that you're talking about emotional connection. And to get to do all the worlds of stage, and then Beau I've been doing for so long, and that score is now, I was talking to the music director about that today, that like it is just in my bones at this point. It is a part of my DNA, this score, in a way that you just can't have unless you've done something for so long. And All the Worlds of Stage was a brand new score that, the only person I'd ever heard sing the songs was Adam on demos. And so he gave me the freedom to like really find what that sound would be like and what that sound would feel like. And yeah, to me, that makes all the difference.
100%. Something really interesting and unique that you guys did with Beau is that you released the concept album. And I think you had amazing like theater talent, Jen Colella, Michael Kilgore, all these people. And I think that's so smart to build an audience first. And do you feel like it's been a powerful tool to like bring people into the story?
Yeah, I think, again, like I think, Beau as a piece is strong. It's a strong book. But I think the thing that really captures people's hearts is the music, because you come in and it's totally unexpected in the way that the score sounds. It's not really like anything. I can't really compare it to anything else. And so I think leading with music, because the story is about music and about music getting passed down through generations, I think that makes a lot of sense dramaturgically and also strategically, because the music is so powerful that they had this great idea that we would create a concept album and have a bunch of different voices lend their gifts to this album and share this music. And I continue to be shocked and surprised by the number of people that are like, I listen to Run In like once a week, or my college showcase, like there were 3 different boys thinking about using Running, or we were singing Crush. Like it's hard for me to like wrap my brain around. And to be completely and totally honest with you, I sing like 9 out of the 11 songs in the show. It's all me, as you saw. And so the concept album does not reflect that. And so there was some resistance internally for me that was like, oh darn, like I just love singing these songs. I love singing these songs so much. And so getting to share them is a gift and a joy. But what I found was the surprise that it created for people who knew the concept album and then came and saw the show was fun, because they don't sound the same. They are the same songs, but the arrangements are different. And obviously I don't sound like Aisha Jackson.
Sure.
So that's like a fun surprise to give people. And it then also creates more demand for hearing the score now, because people like the concept album, but now people are coming going, I want to hear this band play this score. I think what they did was really smart.
It reminds me of John Proctor's The Villain and their trajectory of like releasing the show, building an audience before it comes to Broadway. And I feel like that is so valuable in this moment when you're trying to get these original pieces off the ground.
Yeah, the thing I'll say about that is like, this is a show that, again, because I've been with it for almost 8 years, I've had the show in my pocket for so long. Like I have known about the show, and it's been the thing that I'm working on. And we've been trying to build an audience for a really long time. And now it's like we're finally getting people on board. And it's been amazing to see, people excited and interested, and the buzz and whatever all that is. We've sort of always known. And now to have people finally like realizing it after all this time that we've done readings and concerts and this album, we filmed a movie, like it feels really good to finally be sharing this in a way that's like actually resonating.
Totally. And both of these shows are original queer stories, and that's not meant to be defiant, but in this moment it feels inherently political.
I know.
And I would love for you to talk about just like how you're using art right now to like combat the heaviness of the world, because that.
Yeah, I think we did a run through today in a rehearsal for Beau, because we start previews October 13th. We open October 27th or something like that. And before we started the run today, we were staying in a circle, and I said to everybody, I was like, we have to remember like how lucky we are to be able to be doing this and to be able to be here, and that this is our job right now. And I think if we go one level deeper than that, the sort of joy that it brings us on an individual level, that hope and optimism and light, we get to then carry that out into the world with us, right? So I think the impact is twofold. I think obviously people seeing the show certainly are being moved and are feeling comforted and safe and having a good time and enjoying themselves. All that is true. But on the individual level, I can't make a policy change personally. Right. I don't have the power to do that. I can't sign out of that line and change a law. But what I can do is I can be kind to the person next to me on the subway, right? Like I can hold the door for someone. I can have a conversation with my brother that's really loving. I can laugh with my husband. I can go to coffee with my friend. I can love on my dog. Those like small acts of love, I think compound. And in a time that feels so desperate and so hard and heavy, just moving through the world is a challenge right now. And so the more that we can move through the world with like love and lightness, which I think, again, doing a show like this, getting to sing this music, it does something to me on a molecular level, right? Like it shifts something inside of my body that I'm able to move through the world outside of rehearsal and outside of the show in a way that I think is positive, in a way that I think is moving things towards love and away from fear. And I think that, for me, that's the thing I have to come back to, because it's so massive in terms of the scale, right? It's so all-consuming that if I can get it down to like a really, really small level and be like, can I just enjoy playing this music right now with this group of people in this room, then to me, like that's the small change that I can make in the moment to moment. And then again, take that love and that light that I'm getting from the piece and from the show and from the music and from the people around me and the audiences and the building and out of the box and the creative team, and then carry that into the world. To me, that's the real impact for me. And listen, certainly, there, like you said, these are two shows about queerness that are happening in a time where it feels like it's scarier to be queer maybe than ever, at least in my lifetime. And to be able to tell stories about queer people by queer people that are not, I don't want to say about being queer, because that certainly is sort of part of the narrative of the pieces. But the fact that I get to be myself within these roles and represent whatever my version of queerness is, to me, that's what I needed as a young person, was someone living in their own queerness in a way that gave me permission to live in my own queerness. That's why, like Angel in Rent, even though that's not how I move through the world, seeing someone embody themselves so much gave me the courage and the power to live in my own truth. And that's what I feel like these shows do in a way that like I haven't experienced as an audience or as an actor. That to me is the greatest privilege, is like I get to live in my own queerness within these roles and then share that in the world and then empower someone to be like, you can be whoever it is that you are in whatever moment that you're in.
It reminds me a lot of like the concept of when people are telling Jewish stories, it doesn't always have to be about our oppression.
That's right.
It can just be like Jewish joy. It can be 13. It doesn't have to be parade,
That's right. Oh, so well said, Mackenzie.
Yeah,
yes.
I think that's what you're doing. Obviously, both stories talk a lot about like the struggles and like the contemplation of it, but I think it doesn't have to always be about that. And I think that's really liberating and really exciting.
Yes, that's so well said. I love the 13 parade. I think that's like such a good comp in terms of just like understanding that like 13, there is like struggle and angst, right? There
Sure.
is that. And in Parade, we do get gorgeous music, right? We do,
Yes.
like, there is hope in Parade. It's obviously a heavy story, but there is hope there. So both of those things exist within both of those things. Um, but it doesn't always have to be like the obstacle.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
one facet of the person.
Yeah.
And I think that relates to you because you have many facets of your creativity. And
Sometimes too many, Mackenzie. Okay.
okay, yeah, that feels real. But like it allows your personal style to shine through in like so many different forms. And I think so many of the shows that you've worked on have like a very similar aesthetic to like your vintage 90s like fashion. Like you look at like Roger and Rent at Paper Mill, even like Ace.
I know.
And something I think that's really special is how you incorporated like your family's legacy into your costume of All the World's a Stage. I would love for you to like talk about what that meant to you.
Yeah. So we were getting ready to do All the World's a Stage, which was at this little off-Broadway theater company called Keen Company. And it takes place in 1996. And again, like you said, like my style in the last, I don't know, 3, 4 years post-pandemic, I think also tour, like when I was on tour with
Mm.
company, like I really, I did so much vintage shopping that like my style, my whole closet basically like got completely recycled.
But that's the
And
point of vintage shopping is like you're picking what you're drawn to, not what like trends are telling you.
yes, so I found that I really liked the feel, or I should say how I felt in like 90s jeans and long sleeve shirts and like this sort of like 90s teacher aesthetic.
Yeah.
And then I got cast on All the World Stage and I was playing a 90s teacher and a gay teacher in the 1990s. So I was like,
So on the
honey,
nose,
I'm all in.
obviously.
And I uh and so I already had a couple things in my own closet. Like I have belts of my grandfather's, I have shirts of my grandfather's. I have a whole collection of sweaters that my mom found from my grandfather. I have some of
Love.
my mom's jewelry and my grandmother's jewelry, and I'm grateful that I'm at a place in my own queerness that I feel like really comfortable wearing kind of whatever I want. Um, and so when we were getting ready for All the World's a Stage, and I was putting on this 90s costume, and because I'm wearing glasses full time now, which is a new thing in the last like year and a half. And so I wanted to wear glasses in All the World's a Stage. And they were like, well, we really need to find a pair that's not the ones that I'm wearing, like that is a little more 90s. And I was like, you know what's so funny is that my dad is not a hoarder, but is a hoarder in the
Borderline.
sense that like he like can't throw away a cord or a wire, and he has every single pair of glasses he's ever owned. He's never lost a
I'm
pair of
scared.
glasses.
I'm so scared.
So I was like, huh. So I texted him and I was like, hey, do you have like glasses that like are kind of 90s feeling or that you wore in the 90s? Or do you have like old pairs of glasses you could just send me pictures of? And he sent me a picture of like 4 different pairs and I showed them to the designer and she was like, those. And he sent them and she brought them to this shop on the Lower East Side and they popped in lenses that were my prescription. And I got to wear my dad's glasses in All the World's a Stage, and I was wearing my grandfather's belt, which was really
It's a lot
cool.
of
And
energy coming with you.
yeah, and like to have that on my body, I can get as spiritual as like looking through the frames of my father's eyes.
Yeah.
Like I can go all the way there, but you know, on a more practical level, like to be embodying a queer character that I felt truthful in, right? It wasn't like this caricature of a person. It was a truthful character that just happened to be queer. And wearing this belt from my grandfather and these glasses from my dad, there was just something about like the legacy of that
Mhm.
and the sort of forward motion of getting to share like these pieces of me that again like aren't necessarily central to the character, right? Like the belt that I wear isn't central, and neither really are the glasses, but they are a part of the bigger picture, right? I wrote a piece in the Fourth Wall like 2 weeks ago about brand, and this idea that like the small B brand are like the little pieces, and the big B brand, capital B brand, is like the overall vibe. And
Right.
that the small ones contribute to the big ones. The accumulation of all the small things create the atmosphere that is the big B. And so the glasses and the belt are small B brand, but they contribute to the atmosphere of big brand, of the big B, of who this person is and how he shows up in the world. So it was a great privilege, and I try, you know, even when I did company, I wore my own wedding ring in the show.
Love.
Which was great. Like, and they were willing to let me do that, and to be able to have like a piece of my own queer joy and my own wedding and my own husband in this queer story that I was telling 8 times a week all over the country it was profound. I don't want to like minimize it. Like, it was really profound that every night when I look at the ring or touch the ring or I'm feeling the ring or using the ring in the scenes, I feel like my husband and also just like my life with me. Yeah. So thank you for that question. It's such a specific thing that I feel really grateful that I've gotten to do. And I hope I will continue to get to do.
Well, on the entire flip side of that, a character whose maybe outlandish fashion is very different than yours is Hedwig, which you did at Milwaukee Rep. And I'm curious how stepping into something that's so different than your natural state, like how you found the humanity in that, and even just like walking in those shoes.
I know, which I actually ended up being quite good at. And sometimes I miss those heels. Yeah, the story goes that the audition came in and I was like, there's just no way that I'm getting this. I've never done drag. That's not something that I love drag, but I have never like gone down that path or pursued that as a hobby or a passion. And I assumed that they would cast a famous drag queen or someone that had more credits than me. And my husband lovingly was like, that's not your job. Your job is to like do the audition. And so I was like, okay, let me make this tape and not necessarily feel obligated to go full drag. Like, let me just make the tape and give essence of, the word I want to use is like wildness.
Okay.
But I think that was sort of what or wildness, but also like fluidity I was looking for in what I was wearing. So I ended up wearing, for the tape, I wore like this like leopard print shirt and these really skinny jeans and a pair of Doc Martens because I didn't have heels. And I had longer hair, but I didn't wear any makeup. And I do this tape, and again, I'm like, there's just no way. And I got a callback, and I do the callback on Zoom, which, by the way, like this is November 2019. So like, no one knew what Zoom was, but I used Zoom for this callback. And I wore the same thing, and I got the job, which I have so many stories to tell about how that all came together. But when I found out that I got the job, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this because I've never walked in heels, first of all, and I don't know how to do drag. And once again, similar to all the conversation we've been having, they were so willing to collaborate with me and allow. I want to try to say this in a way that's clean and clear. Which is why I like having a newsletter, because I get to like actually put things into words. But like my essence was able to come through Hedwig. Like I felt like they gave me permission for my essence to come through this person. But also I then felt, because I felt safe to exist within her, she kind of came into me. Like it was happening it was happening in both directions. And so like putting on the costume for the first time, like for me, it was like when the wig went on, that's when I felt like, oh, I'm coming into this other piece of my own being. I don't feel like I'm pretending to be someone that I'm not. I'm stepping into this other part of myself that I not necessarily haven't really accessed previously. And I will tell you, the thing that was the scariest was, listen, we were in Milwaukee. I'm from Chicago. And so everyone I've ever known in my entire life was coming to see me do this, including, let's just start with my own family.
Yeah.
Right? Like my dad and my brother and my mom. I mean, my mom is a theater person, and like I knew that she'd be cool. But, you know, and listen, my dad, I was with my now husband for 4 or 5 years when this happened. So like, it wasn't like I was not accepted as a queer kid.
Right.
But you know, being a queer kid is a little different than like being in full drag. Like basically
A
like
lot
humping people
louder.
in the audience.
Yeah.
Yes. And to get to share this part of myself
Mm-hmm.
through the lens of Hedwig, right? Like Hedwig allowed me to share this piece of myself with my family friends, with friends. I mean, with truly like hundreds of people that have known me my whole life,
Mm-hmm.
was absolutely terrifying,
Of course.
but so, so liberating and so life affirming and validating to be able to be this whole queer being that, again, like Hedwig gave me permission to be. Like it
Mm-hmm.
gave me the ability to step into that in a way that I didn't feel fear. I didn't feel fear when I was in actually doing it. There was no fear in doing it, which also completely shocked me. That once I was on stage, once we were like in the run, I had the time of my life. Like I was loving it.
It was complete
Um,
surrendering.
there's no choice. You
Right.
have to
Yeah.
with that role. With most roles, but with that role, really, you have to fully commit and fully surrender and just accept that like whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And I learned that like how I'm being perceived has nothing to do with me. Like someone's perception of me and my style and my essence or whatever is more about who they are and where they're coming from and what they're bringing into that room with them. But yeah, I mean, that role completely changed. It changed the trajectory of my life because I found that I could again like exist. My parts of my queerness could exist in tandem with one another.
Mm.
And this more feminine side of me, this more, and also like not even just feminine, like this more chaotic, this
Yeah.
more embodied, this
Messy.
more fluid, yeah, messy part
Yeah.
of my queerness was not only like not only fun, but like was interesting and like was teaching me things about myself that I didn't even know weren't there.
Actors a lot talk about how like the right roles come at the right times and it feeds you at the right moment. And I
Yeah.
want to go back to you mentioned your newsletter, The Fourth Wall, which I love and really feels like an empowering way to have like total creative liberty. And you mentioned on the newsletter that you stopped confusing dopamine for meaning. And I think when you have roles,
Whew.
yeah, it feels like I don't know if you watched The Social Dilemma, but it's when they told me that scrolling on social media is kind of like cranking a slot
Yeah.
machine.
Yep.
It feels similar to that, and I'm curious, you've been working consistently all year and like navigating how that feels to you and not taking it in, but not taking it so seriously.
Yeah, I thank you for shouting out the fourth wall and thank you for
I
quoting.
love it.
Thank you. I love it too. It's as you know, and as we talked about before we start recording, like having a creative outlet as a creative person is just so vital.
Mhm.
And a podcast is a lot of work. And so the fourth wall, this written version, is more sustainable for me right now. And that quote is, I think when we're in school or we're young, the glamour and the prestige of this business is very appealing, right?
Mhm.
Like it's all about it can become very quickly all about the press releases and the playbill articles.
It's like people are like, oh, I like making the LinkedIn post, but then realizing you actually have to do the job, and you're like, oh, never mind.
Very different,
Yeah.
very, very different. And I certainly was guilty of that, right? Or I shouldn't even say guilty. Like that was part of my upbringing and part of who I was and how I understood the business and the world. And I think there's a couple reasons why that shifted.
Mhm.
Uh, I think getting married was a big one. My wedding was on the day of my final callback for the company tour.
Oh, no way.
And yes, so like in the morning, I got married to my husband in Central Park. And then at 2 p.m., I was singing Not Getting Married in a rehearsal room. And that put things into perspective in a really interesting way because the thing that became the most important was my wedding. It wasn't this callback that would normally be, I mean, literally inundating me and just suffocating me for a week was so secondary to this like
Mhm.
really important like life moment. So that piece, I think getting on Prozac was a big game changer for me.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, the highs and lows of being alive are different for everybody. And for me, it's always been that the highs are really, really high and the lows are really, really, really low, right? They happen equally. And I now, and I think tour made a big difference in this too, that because you're doing the same show, you're just doing the same thing 8 times a week all over the country for strangers, and it's a year, what ends up happening, which again, I've never done a run that long, what ends up happening is you realize that like, you come off stage, it was like an okay show, and you're like, all right, well, I'll do that tomorrow. I'll do it again tomorrow. That was a big shift for me, because now, even doing Beau and All the World's a Stage, like if it wasn't a great show or I fuck something up or whatever happens, I don't beat myself up. I'm able to like process it in a way that I don't take it personally and it doesn't weigh on me. And I understand, I have more perspective, I guess. And I think that's what I'm talking about when I talk about dopamine, is that I think it's really easy to get high in the applause, right? From bows or from, whatever it is that you're doing, get high on the final result. When the truth is that like the real meaning, like the real work, the real meaning is in the real work, right? The thing that I love the most is being in the room. The thing I love the most is the collaborating. The thing I love the most is being backstage and laughing with people. Like, don't get me wrong, I love doing the show. Of course I love doing the show. It also is my job to do the show. And it's my job to be in the room, but that show becomes your job, and it's a wonderful job, but it's not sustainable. And to have to put all my eggs in that basket, or I should say to put all my eggs in that basket of counting on the dopamine hits of doing a show, just like, it'd be like doing any drug. You know what I mean? At some point, you need more in order for it to have the same effect. I just realized that, actually, like, this isn't going to get me high in the same way, and it's not getting me high in the same way. And actually, the thing that really fills up my cup is the process, is the doing, right? Everyone says, like, the journey is the destination. And that for me, that has become like very, very true, and is just speaking to that quote that you said, that like it's more about the work than it is about the result of that work. There's some proverb that says like that we are not entitled to the fruits of our labor, we're only entitled to the labor. And while that's not necessarily like that comforting, to know that is, I think, necessary and important, especially in an industry and a business that is so front-facing and so all about how we're being perceived and feedback and getting the yes instead of the no and getting applause. It's just easy to start to think that like those things are what matters, when ultimately it's about the relationships. And again, the thing we were talking about before, of like the small moments of joy and small moments of love, like that's what it's actually about. And so, yeah, like, do I get excited when the Playbill article comes out? Sure. It's really nice to hear from people. I love hearing from people. It's wonderful and awesome and great that my face is going to be on a billboard on 46th Street outside of a theater for Beau. I'm really excited about that. That high fades really fast.
Yes.
And is not sustainable. It's candy. That's what I say. I think of it like candy. I'm like, I love candy so much. I'm like a full sugar addict. I love candy, but it's not the meal, like it's not going to satiate me like a burger is going to satiate me. And that's the difference.
And the growth, it reminds me of how you were talking about like doing hockey and doing theater. It's like when you have other things, like if I don't get the lead in the play, I still have hockey. Like all your eggs aren't in one basket, and that's not your full source. It's the same thing of like, you don't go to the same friend for everything. You don't go, like, not everything is going to be everything all.
And it's interesting. I don't know what it is about that conceptually that feels inherently Jewish to me as well. I don't know what I'm getting at there, but it feels like there's something in that is, I don't know, maybe it is the guilt thing, but like that there's something about that feels inherently like Jewish to me, that we can hold the bothness, you know what I mean? That it can be sacred, but it can also be like, it can also just be a piece of bread. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm not sure. Again, I don't know what it is, but there's something in there that and this is why I have a newsletter, because I get to like I have that thought and I'm like, oh, let me explore that. Let me go deeper in that and like figure that out.
That makes me laugh. So I have, speaking of both, I have this sticky note on my desktop that says everything is both wonderful and terrible, boring and exciting, and it's
That's
okay.
what my newsletter's about this week.
Oh, well, for obvious reasons, yes. But
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I think about it all the time, and it really
Yeah.
is. I think it's so easy. I like love to categorize things in my brain of like, oh, I love this person or I love this experience. And
Or I
it's
hate this experience or
yes.
right, good, bad. Yeah.
And I was talking to my therapist about this week, and she's like, life's an experiment. Why does everything have to be so consequential? It can literally just be a trial.
I think we are, I mean, I was listening to Brene Brown earlier this week, and she was talking about how like we're not wired for nuance.
Hmm.
We are wired for concrete, specific answers. We like to
Yeah.
know.
The black and white,
And
binary.
yes, yes, and we don't like the idea of gray. It's harder to hold things that are formless, and nuance and gray is formless, right? I mean, the thing that I say when I teach always is like, I'm someone that believes that things can be that let's just start with a person. I believe that a person can be non-binary. I believe that a person can exist, that someone's spirit and soul, who somebody is, can exist outside of the binary. If I believe that's true, and many people in our industry believe that's true, we need to apply that thinking globally. We need
Hmm.
to be able to hold space for all the bothness, to say this thing that I think is good or bad, maybe there's a bigger picture that I'm not seeing. And again, like I think that is what's at the core of why I do the fourth wall. Like I was saying, is that like I want to explore all the angles. I want to understand things from all sides. Which again, that even that word sides
Hmm.
turns them something into binary. But I really love nuance, and I to me it helps me process the messiness of what it is to be alive. Is to know that like the confusion I feel internally is also like that is part of what this is, this experiment that we're all in.
And you think about yourself, it's like, okay, I'm sure someone has perceived me as an asshole at some point. I know that that's not my entire being.
Yes.
So just because someone is one way to you doesn't mean that that's their entire being or their whole
Yes.
existence. And so the same patience you give to yourself.
Hopefully.
Right, I know, which is ironic because in most scenarios you're harder on yourself than you are
Right.
with other people. But in this scenario, you know that you aren't defined by one experience or like one thing that you've done in your life.
Or one food that you like, right?
Right.
Like your interests and your tastes and your hobbies and your ideas and the things that inspire you and the things that you love. Like my husband isn't just a Harry Potter fan, you know?
Right.
Like he likes Twilight too. Like
Rage.
right, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that, and that's what that nuance is. Like to categorize anything is just easier, and I
Of
think
course.
the bothness is like, to me that's just essential. It's and I'm so excited that's on your desk, because that's literally, that poem is what I'm writing about this week.
I have that one. I have three. So I have that one. I have don't let anyone make you feel like you're doing a bad job because they're having a bad day, which is really good. And then I
Yep.
have take up space authentically and unapologetically, which
Love that. Which this year there was a video at the beginning of the year that was like, I think it was Cara Rose DiPietro that was like,
mhm.
I am giving people a reason to have my name in their mouth. And I was
Yeah,
like, it was my phone background for like 2 months. I was like, this year I'm giving people a reason to have my name in their mouth.
right. We had Carol on the pod, and I'm like, I'm obsessed with just like the relinquishing of perception because I think as someone who she's so online, you can get
Yep.
so bogged down in that, and that so doesn't serve you in any way.
No, that is such a good way of saying it too. Yeah, just the total surrender of perception. That's exactly what it is.
So speaking of the influencer space, when you started out in New York, you were a major part of like the Broadway.com like online personality
Crazy.
renaissance. And I'm curious if you feel like the web series era of like you, Susan Blackwell, like really paved the way for like this theater talk environment.
I do. I do think so. And I don't say that to pat my own back, but
Right.
I think it's important context that like we understand that also we don't get a Susan Blackwell or me without Broadway.com vlogs,
Right.
without The Batteries Down, without Submissions Only, which were these web series that were happening in like the mid-aughts on YouTube that were musical theater based, right? Like like theater talk is not new. It is the next version of the thing that you're talking about that like I was really grateful and lucky to be a part of because I basically inserted myself. I basically
Yeah.
said, I want to be a part of this thing. And I also saw an empty space. There wasn't anyone doing what I thought people could be doing in the way that I thought that I could do it. And so I said, why the hell not? And I also thought I just didn't know what opportunities it would lead to. And it has been beyond my wildest dreams. I mean, again, like Hedwig, a big part of the reason they cast me in Hedwig was because they saw those videos and were like, he can improv.
So
And
true.
and again, like you just don't know what leads to what. I mean, I got my agent from doing those red carpets because I was talking to her clients on red carpets. Like it's so nonlinear.
Right.
And I think again, like we're gonna continue to see that happening with what's happening now on Theater Talk. That like, I mean, certainly it already has had a major impact on the space, and how shows are being perceived and how shows are selling. And listen, one TikTok, sold like $5,000 worth of tickets for Beau when we were downtown.
Ah.
One video.
I mean, you look at like the sound, we could go see Boop, like they ran that into the ground to get sold and
As they should. As
they
they
should.
should.
And it always comes back to like you're planting a million seeds and you don't know which one's gonna grow.
That's
And
right.
it's gonna reveal itself eventually. But
Yeah, but it was a great listen. I loved working at Broadway.com, and I produced Susan Blackwell. I produced that show. That was one of the shows that I worked on, and that experience again, like it just totally demystified the business for me in a way that I think you can't have unless you're inside something like that. And
right.
again, I think video content or content in general, that's how you can get doors open for yourself. Is just by making your own stuff, as you know.
Right. And you even look at like the women of Real Women Have Curves, like when their show wasn't selling, they were boots to the ground making their own videos. And one, like that's gonna help sell the show, hopefully. But in turn, it's like they're becoming personalities. And you even look at like Broadway.com vlogs, like Leslie Margarita, like has such a die-hard fan base for every show she does in perpetuity because she did a Broadway.com vlog during Matilda.
That's exactly right. That's
And
totally
so,
right, Mackenzie.
and it is interesting to see like so many online personalities. You look like Jessica Voss, like all these people are really putting themselves out there, and it also makes you more marketable to casting directors, which
No
is
question.
wild to say, but it is a really interesting thing that I feel like you guys were doing before Theater Talk was even an idea.
I mean, it was Facebook video. That's what I was doing. That's
Yeah.
what, like, it was to that we're talking 2015, 16. Like, this was the beginning of Facebook video, right? Instagram, I remember when Reels launched, Reels was its own, it was IGTV.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Like, I remember when Stories launched. Like, I remember all these things and people being like, I don't know. And it was like, yeah, it's been cool to watch the evolution. And sometimes I forget that was an era of my life. And to be fair, like I don't think anyone remembers any of that. And so when I talk to people or I meet people and they're like, oh my God, like I watched every single one of your red carpet videos.
Yeah.
Or today I was talking to somebody and I was like, oh yeah, I used to do this thing with like one of my friends. We were like bros watching like the Tony Awards. And he was
Oh my
like,
God,
that
I
was you?
know. I'm familiar.
And like that's the thing is like those things again, like you said, like you just don't know what the seeds you're planting will turn into. Proud of all that stuff.
Think about Darren Criss doing Harry Potter. Like there's
You
all
just don't know.
deep cuts, and it is really wild to see how it's just like changed everything for so many
Yeah.
people. Also, future me here, I just want to interject and mention how what Matt was doing on the red carpet with Broadway.com was such a push for accessibility. I know for me growing up in South Florida, not near Broadway, it was such a window behind the curtain and such a way for me to connect with Broadway and really fall in love with it, even being thousands of miles away. And so his impact really knows no bounds and has been such a meaningful way for people to tap into what the Broadway community is just beyond the stage. And so I think to make note of how valuable that is an understatement. And it was such a window in for me to discover theater in a really meaningful way and make me want to be even a small part of the business. the way I just want to wrap up this conversation, because I could pick your brain for hours,
I know. I'm a yapper.
is a quote that really resonated with me from your newsletter is you were talking about the brand and you were saying how the way you move through the world, how you show up, what you share, how you make people feel, that's the brand. And this podcast is all about personal style. And I'm curious, when you leave a room, the signature stamp, the brand that you want to leave people with.
Mm. Well, I don't want someone to say that I smelled bad. So
Okay,
we'll start
period.
there. We'll
Sure.
start there. We'll start there. No, one of the things I've been saying in the last couple of months is that in work environments, and I think we'll go beyond that, but starting off in work environments, the only thing that someone should have to say about you is like a pleasure to work with.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And sure, they can go into like he's a generous collaborator, blah blah blah. But the bottom line should be he's a pleasure to work. He was a pleasure to have in class, right? Like
Yeah.
that was the teacher's note.
Mine was she distracts other students by talking, but like we'll take.
Oh, obviously talks a little too
Right.
much, participates too much.
Yeah, has a lot
Yeah,
of opinions.
I think I think I mean again, I've been reflecting on Gavin Creel's legacy
Mm.
a lot in the last couple of weeks as it's come up like towards the anniversary of his passing, and I just think when I leave a room or when I leave this plane,
Mm.
I hope that people feel more themselves. That to me is ultimately what I'm after. Like my why. I worked for Simon Sinek for a really long time, and my why is to tap into people's light so that we can form deeper connections with ourselves and one another.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true in the work that I do. That's true on how I ride the subway, right? Like that has to be true in everything that I do. When I'm actively in my why, I feel like I am in my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm trying in everything that I do to tap into someone's light, which you can tell when someone is living in their light, you can see someone's body change shape.
Right.
The way they open up, I've seen it with you in this conversation. There are certain things that light you up in the way that you talk about them, so that we can form more meaningful and deeper connections, more honest connections, more empathetic understanding with one another, right? We can understand each other better so that we can then understand ourselves better. Right. Because that, like, you can't take it with you. Like when we're gone, we're gone.
Right.
And so if the thing that you say about me is like, I feel like I was able to become more of myself because I met this person or because this person held space for me. And that's how I felt about Gavin. I mean, he was someone who just saw me for who I was and was always down to play games on the red carpet and
not take himself
always
too seriously.
No, not taking anything too seriously. Yeah. But again, like that's that bothness, right? That like we're at the opening of a Broadway show, something you've put in so much time and effort and energy into, and there's respect for that, and there's also respect for the joy that comes with that, right. And the fun that can carry, like the light that can carry. So yeah, I think that's what I'm after. Is like I sure, like it's about making people feel safe and seen and heard, and all that's true. Deeper than that, though, is like I'm hoping that people are forming deeper connections with themselves. That's what I'm after.
Yeah. And I think you put it in just the right way of you can tell when you're in your purpose, when you can lose track of time doing something, when you can feel all of the light inside of you. And one more quote, you never know what people are going through, so be the reason they always feel seen.
How
And
about that?
they don't have to be seen in the way that you want them to be, but just like the taking the ego out of it.
Yes.
Is how it lands. And you have to look sideways and not always up. So, I mean, this is related to like when I was an intern, I asked one of the other interns to get coffee and like tell me about their internship, and everyone else was really focused on like, let me ask the like highest VP in the room like a one-on-one.
So interesting.
I got my first job out of college because that fellow intern was getting poached to that company, and she was like, "Oh, do you want my recruiter's information?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?"
Yo, so, that's the tea right there.
I mean, everything comes out of like people, I forget who was talking about this, but they were like, create your creative community, like the people you come up with. Sondheim had Hal Prince, like create your
I mean, my little my friend group, but also the age and the people like that are in and around me. I mean, I was literally talking about this last night that like one of the things I say a lot is a rising tide lifts all boats. And I
Always.
really, really believe that.
Hmm.
And I feel very, very privileged to be a part of this, whatever this moment is, and this group of people for all its flaws and all its beauty, right? Like the fact that I'm going into auditions and seeing the same five guys is not something that I feel burdened by. Actually, it brings me a lot of joy to be able to like that we're all doing the same thing and we're all on the hustle. And when someone else gets something, it's like exciting for me. I'm happy for them. Of
Right.
course, I want the job, and there's no question about that. But to be able to celebrate someone else, like that's what I think this whole thing is about. And yeah, I mean, again, a rising tide lifts all boats. I think that looking sideways versus looking up is so, so good, Mackenzie. I'm gonna steal that. So that's great.
And it's so fun. Like you look at Lynn's brought all of his friends with him. You
That's
look at
right.
Sandler, every single movie he makes to hang out with his friends.
That's right. That's right.
And you even look at like the SNL ladies, like there's power in like these pockets of
A little crew. Yeah.
yeah, and it always strikes me, I forget what year it was, but one year all of the Tony noms for leading actor went out to dinner and they just like shot the shit. And I'm like, yeah, that's the point. It's like we're all in this moment together.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
the point.
I thank you so much for your time, for your honesty, everything.
Thanks, Mackenzie.
And I can't wait to read the newsletter this week.
This has been great. I'm so grateful, and again, I hope when people come see Beau, if they're in the city,
Hmm.
we'll be at St. Luke's on 46th Street in Midtown, right off of 8th Avenue. I think right now it's like 8 weeks only, starting in October,
Okay.
but hopefully we'll be there longer. And yeah, I hope that when people come, they have a good time and they feel all the things that we're talking about. They can feel the essence of all that in the room and in real life, because it's one thing to read it online and talk about it online, but it's another thing to like actually experience it in person. And so I hope that that's what people get.
Hey, your extension video worked last time, so knock on wood.
That's right.
Do
You
it
never
again.
know. You never know.
Never know. Amazing. Well, thank you.
Thanks, Mackenzie.